Earth, spat Chancellor Vex, his mandibles clicking with disdain, was a husk, a myth, barely a blip on our maps. He waved a claw dismissively at the pulsing hologram in the center of the Galactic Strategic Hall, a faint blue marble, rotating slowly, scorched, cracked, supposedly dead. Then explain, growled war strategist Dralkun, why 13 of our long-range scouts disappeared within 2,000 clicks of it. Silence. Not because there was no answer, because the truth was trying to crawl out of their pride. Commander Velresh narrowed his luminous eyes. I accessed one of the black box echoes before it corrupted. There was no battle, no interference. And, Vex snapped. Velresh's voice dipped lower. There was construction, underground, rhythmic, synchronized, dozens of heat signatures matching old Terran power cores. Impossible, someone hissed from the darkness. Humans were dismantled, genetically purged. They fled into extinction. They were scattered into prehistory. Vex chuckled dryly. Their last broadcast begged for mercy. Velresh stared at the image of Earth, the swirling blue, the rising static. Maybe that was the bait. AVD spike across the chamber. A senior intelligence agent stepped forward. Her scales glistened with tension. We received one unfiltered transmission, a fragment, embedded in static, not a message. A schematic. A schematic? Dralkun tilted his head. Of what? The lights dimmed. The hologram flickered, and there it was, an image no one wanted to see, no Empire general. No tactical planner, a human warframe, not one they recognized, not from the wars. This was new, brutal in shape, jagged, massive. Its limbs looked industrial, repurposed, repainted, re-weaponized. But the worst part wasn't its construction. It was the line underneath, scrawled in Terran script, burned into the metal, Model 001, cradle built. A pause, then the tagline appeared. Earth is the forge, we are the hammer. War strategist Dralkun rose to full height. Are you suggesting Earth has become a manufacturing node? No, the agent said, voice tightening. I'm suggesting it always was, and we never noticed. Vex scoffed. This is fear-mongering. Earth was glassed. Their atmosphere was collapsing. We tracked every escape pod. Velresh leaned forward. You tracked signals, not humans. That silence again. The kind that feels like the end of a lie. Then the room blinked, not the lights, reality. The hologram of Earth flickered, but it wasn't interference, it was live. From a drone that had reached low orbit, it showed continents rebuilding themselves, craters reshaped, factories with roofs that breathed, solar mirrors reflecting not sunlight, but some dark spectrum unknown to the Empire. AVD spike in one corner. Of the feed, a single machine moved, boxy, slow, until it noticed the drone, and stopped, turned, raised a limb, and pointed. The drone imploded. No beam, no missile, no detectable energy, just gone. Signature line? It didn't destroy it. It removed. Vex stood trembling. I want every Imperial dreadnought within jump distance prepped. Now. Dralkun nodded. And if it's a trap? Velresh exhaled. Then we'll know who's hunting whom. The agent added, we still don't know who's sending the signals. But someone down there has command codes from the final war. Human ones, verified. Then they're survivors, Vex insisted. Fragments, rebels. No. Velresh tapped his data frame. The central feed zoomed in on one of the underground factories. A door opened, and they stepped out. Not starved, not scarred. Engineers, clean uniforms, coordinated, their movements precise. Their eyes, sharp, unreadable, humans, smiling, and behind them rows of machines taller than ships. The feed cut. The chamber plunged into a murmur of panic. Dralkun stepped into the center, gaze hard. We must assume Earth is operational. Worse, intentional. It waited, it watched, it built. Vex finally cracked. Then why haven't they attacked? Why the show? Velresh answered for him, because they don't need to. A whisper leaked through the Empire's secure channel, a voice that no one authorized, human.female, calm. You thought you bombed us into peace. You thought you ended the threat. But Earth was never a nation. Earth was never a battlefield. Earth was always the machine. Then the line broke, but the last words echoed, looping over and over. We are not rearming. We are remembering. And that was before Earth even responded. The Imperial assault fleet dropped into orbit with the arrogance of victors, not visitors. 74 capital ships. 3 dreadnoughts. Enough firepower to incinerate a solar system, hovering above a planet they once thought dead. Earth. Commander Vexin, an old strategist with more scars than stars on his rank bar, stood at the bow of the Ishratul Dominion, sneering at the blue-brown sphere below. "Targeting systems online?" he barked. "Locked," came the reply. No resistance, no shields, no signals. Earth looked passive. Vexin didn't like passive. Initiate first sweep scan. I want everything from tectonic tremors to heat shifts. If someone's building down there, we burn it. The bridge darkened. The scan began, and then the lights pulsed. Not flickered, pulsed. Like. The ship's heartbeat synced with something else. The crew froze. One of the lieutenants clutched his chest. "Sir, scanners aren't returning data. It's being absorbed." Absorbed? Like the planet's pulling it in. "Not jamming, eating it," another officer hissed. "We just lost external feeds." Vexin gritted his fangs. "Impossible. We're not even in atmospheric range." The communication screen blinked to life. On its own, static, then a voice. "Human, calm, dot measured. You're early." Back at the council hall, Chancellor Vex watched the live feed freeze. A ship-wide data surge had knocked out 90% of the orbital fleet's visuals. Only audio remained. Fragmented, looping. "You're early. You're early. You're..." Vex turned to Velresh. "Why aren't they attacking?" Velresh didn't answer, because he'd seen something in the corner of that final frozen frame. A shape, a rising black obelisk near the ruins of old Siberia. The same signature that took down their probes, a war construct, buried, now risen, dialogue density. "We need to pull them out," Dralkun said, pacing hard. "This is not reconnaissance anymore. This is engagement." "No!" Vex snapped. "We can't retreat from a myth." Velresh clenched his jaw. "We already did. A century ago, we just called it victory. On the Ishratul Dominion, sensors finally flickered back. But something was wrong. The Earth looked different. Not from orbit, from context. The mountains weren't where they should be. Oceans had shifted, not naturally, deliberately." One officer gasped. "This terrain, it's designed. Designed for what?" Vexin snarled, then a new image appeared. Brief, intercepted from a reconnaissance drone. A canyon shaped like a turbine, a glacier with artificial vents, an island chain arranged like cooling fins. The planet itself was the machine. One of the young tacticians backed away from his console, eyes wide. "Sir, Earth's not a planet anymore. It's an interface," Vexin shouted. "With what?" The stars answered, "AVD Spike 30. Seconds later, deep orbit tracking arrays detected movement, not ships, not debris. Launches from Earth, from below, vertical ascension spikes, no heat, no noise, just objects, rising. 1, then 3, then 11, then too many to count. Silhouettes shaped like human dreadnoughts but with no visible propulsion, drifting on anti-gravity fields older than any Terran tech catalogued during the war. But they were new. The metal was too clean. From within Earth's crust came a fleet, and they weren't cloaked. They wanted to be seen. Vexin was silent now. No more orders. His hands trembled. "Get me weapons control," the AI voice responded instead of his. "Crew, denied. Excuse me, you are interfacing with Earth. Earth has authority." The stars outside his viewport bent slightly, only for a blink, a ripple. then gone, but they all felt it. That, something else had just adjusted the laws of engagement. Not a threat, a demonstration. Inside the ascending Terran vessel, codenamed Forge Crown, Commander Alex Neria stood in perfect silence, eyes locked on the Empire's orbital fleet. Her ship had no windows, just synaptic links feeding data into her neural interface. Each pulse from Earth surged through her spine like liquid fire. And still, she stood calm. The ship was her now. "How many?" she asked softly. The voice of the Forge responded, an ancient AI with the tone of a priest. 89 vessels in orbit, 3 Dreadnought class, 1 matched signal, Ishratul Dominion. That one led the first glassing. "Confirmed," Alex breathed. Remembered the smell of burning soil, remembered what they'd done to her sister cities, then exhaled. "I don't want them dead," she said. "You want them to remember." A nod. "Let's begin." Back on the Ishratul, every screen now displayed a single word: Forge. Their weapon systems locked, but not on Terran ships, on each other. "Override!" Vexen screamed. "Kill that script!" Too late. 2 destroyers. Fired on a cruiser, 3 more fired blindly. Ships began detonating without external cause, energy buildups in their own reactors. Safeguards bypassed. The Terran fleet hadn't fired a single shot, and already 6 ships were gone. Virex's voice crackled through private channel. "Encrypted. They've rewritten our command lattice. Earth didn't build weapons. Earth built uselessness." The dreadnoughts began spinning, slowly, unnaturally. Not by their thrusters. Gravity was being rewritten. Each ship felt lighter and heavier. The crews felt their thoughts go sluggish, their instincts dim, then a sound, not over comms, inside their skulls, a hum. Human machines didn't broadcast radio waves anymore. They sang in frequencies aimed directly at cognition. Every officer, every soldier, every strategist on board the Empire's mighty fleet felt the presence of Earth. On the surface, near the Pacific Core node, a single Terran child stepped out of a shelter, eyes skyward. "No fear," he raised his hand. A gesture, and far above, one of the orbiting dreadnoughts shut down, lights dead, hull freezing. The entire ship became inert, as if unmade. Back on Forge Crown, Commander Alex watched the cascade begin. "You see," she whispered to no one in particular, "we never needed warships." She raised her hand. "All we ever needed was the blueprint." And with that, one line echoed across every frequency in the Empire. Human voice. No anger, just memory. "You thought Earth was your victory. It was your ignition. You never burned it. You activated it." And then came silence, just for a moment. And in that silence, something inside the Empire broke, because Earth hadn't responded with rage. Earth had responded with design. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. The escape orders came too late. Of the original 74 ships that had entered Earth's orbit, 31 were now gone, either disintegrated from internal sabotage or turned on each other during the command feedback loop. The rest hovered in a paralyzed silence, systems glitching, command structures scrambled. On board the Imperial carrier Vexel Core, First Officer Tyrek clenched the edge of his console so hard the alloy bent under his fingers. His captain, a decorated war veteran named Sultranvac, hadn't spoken in 5 minutes, not since the voice spoke to him directly, not over speakers, not through implants, directly in his thoughts. Tyrek whispered, "Sir?" Vac didn't blink, just stared at the silent projection of Earth rotating on the screen. Then finally, "There's no point." Tyrek turned, stunned. "Sir?" Vac's voice was hoarse. "You feel it, don't you? Like the air is listening, like something is inside us now. Not malware, not code, something else. Something." A new tremor ran through the floor of the ship. No impact, just pressure. Something outside reality was beginning to notice them. In the officer's bay, monitors flickered. Diagnostic logs corrupted themselves and rewrote with Terran syntax. Ships weren't just compromised, they were being reformatted. Across 22 vessels, command crews began to exhibit identical symptoms, heart rate sinking, pupil dilation identical, sweat levels rising simultaneously. Someone somewhere screamed, "It's controlling us!" But that wasn't it. It wasn't control. It was alignment. They were being brought to a frequency Earth could understand. Because Earth wasn't asking questions anymore, it was tuning them in. One technician slammed his head against a panel and began muttering over and over, "They're not defending. They're deploying something inside us." Inside Earth's crust, a subterranean. Network began humming, no lights, just motion. Ancient gearworks grinding for the first time in 100 years. Human-designed, built before the last war. Left dormant, not because humanity lost, but because it wasn't time. Now they'd decided it was. From deep beneath what was once the Amazon basin, a massive spire erupted upward, miles of black carbon steel wrapped in nanite filament. It didn't broadcast power. It sucked it in. In space, the stars around Earth dimmed slightly, not because of distance, not obstruction, but because Earth was drawing in power from them. Solar theft, gravitational bleeding. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a planet had turned itself into a power sink, and no one knew why. Not yet. Inside the Empire's primary dreadnought, Chancellor Vex screamed at his systems officer, "Get me a line to the Forge Crown, now!" But there was no Forge Crown, no pings, no return signature, no visual. The Terran fleet that had emerged from Earth's crust had stopped transmitting, as if the broadcast was complete, as if the message had been sent. And now it was time for the answer. Above Earth's equator, the empty space began to swirl. No jump signature, no warp beacon, no subspace tear, just folding like space itself was coiling around a shape it hadn't seen before. Then the shape appeared, and everything changed. It wasn't a ship, it wasn't alive, it wasn't anything the Empire had words for. Black geometry, impossibly flat, and infinitely tall, floating with such density it bent shadow around it. Its surface reflected Earth, but only Earth. It ignored the stars, ignored the fleet. It was locked into the cradle that birthed it. In every imperial mind across the orbit, one thought arrived, not spoken, not translated, just felt. Mother has awoken. The thing didn't fire, it just hummed. And in that hum, ships lost control again, only this time, not chaos. Harmony. Engines stopped screaming, power outputs leveled, weapon systems disarmed, and then a strange silence. A young communications officer whispered from the corner, "Are we being spared?" On the Vexel core, Tyrek turned to his captain. "They could have ended us. We're just floating here. Why aren't they doing anything?" Vak didn't answer, because something had begun playing through the speakers, a low, soft sound. Children singing, a Terran lullaby. Old, beautiful, haunting, and under it, machine sounds. Machinery shifting, bolting, reassembling, rhythms, factories. Earth was building something, not for war, for departure. This wasn't a strike zone, it was a launch platform. All along, Earth hadn't been hiding. It had been preparing to leave, not just with ships, but with cities. Entire blocks of architecture, once thought to be ruins, began rising into the air. Colossal constructs breaking free from their old planetary moorings. Human cities engineered to become stellar vessels. One by one they activated Beijing, Lagos, New Delhi, Sao Paulo. The bones of Earth's civilizations had become the frame of an exodus, a Terran exodus. And still, no weapons fired. On the Terran side, Commander Alex watched as the Cradle-class cities began to ascend. Her voice was calm. The Empire came to conquer. Let them watch us leave. The AI responded, "They will follow." Let them. But this time we choose the battlefield. From orbit, the Empire's ships could only watch as Earth launched itself, piece by piece. They had invaded a dead planet and realized it was not dead. It was loading. The mistake was not failing to destroy Earth. The mistake was assuming Earth needed to destroy them. It never did. It just needed them to look, to panic, to react, to send fleets, to reveal every flaw in their strategy, because Earth's true weapon wasn't war. It was understanding, and now Earth understood everything. The final message broadcast from Earth was one word, looping forever. Observe. Not a warning, an invitation, and they had already RSVP'd. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. ChatGPT said there was no command chain anymore. Only whispers, on board. The Ishratul Dominion, once the pride of the Empire's navy, Admiral Vex sat motionless. He had stopped giving orders 3 hours ago. His eyes were bloodshot, his breath slow, ragged. He watched Earth break itself apart, not in decay, but in design. Entire continents shifted, not violently but fluidly, like puzzle pieces detaching from a larger structure. Cities launched into orbit with no fire or flame, just serene ascension. Terraforming rigs that had lain, dormant for generations, activated mid-air. Their purpose was no longer to shape Earth, they were shaping elsewhere. "Where are they going?" his second officer whispered, voice barely audible. Vexin didn't answer, because he knew. This wasn't retreat, it was expansion, and not because Earth was threatened, but because it had decided the Empire wasn't interesting enough anymore. The Vexel Corps tried to hail one of the rising Terran constructs. No response. Instead, the image that flashed back onto their screen was a blueprint of the ship they were standing in, a perfect internal layout, detailed, updated to include the anxiety levels of every crew member. "Sir," the tech officer trembled. "They scanned us without scanning." "They know us," Vexen muttered. "They've already built us before." Aboard one of the Terran Forge units, a group of engineers watched the last phase of activation. They weren't soldiers, they were architects, and their creations weren't weapons. They were versions of everything the galaxy had shown them. Earth hadn't just observed the Empire, it had been copying them, refining them, replacing flaws. From the failure of old human empires, Earth learned resilience. From the silence of being forgotten, it learned patience. From the arrogance of alien invaders, it learned strategy, and now it was finished learning. Above the Pacific Rift, the last Cradle-class city separated from Earth's crust. The hole it left didn't collapse. It was reinforced from below. Why? Because Earth wasn't abandoning itself. It was leaving behind a copy one. The Empire might try to invade again, one that might bite back. Commander Alex watched her own reflection shimmer in the viewport of her ship, now designated Seed 1. The AI whispered, "All cradles confirmed in orbit." "And the prototype?" "Test complete. The signal is active." She nodded. "Send it." Across the Imperial network, civilian, military, encrypted, every screen went dark, then lit with one sentence. "You thought Earth was a battleground. It was a forge. Now we carry the flame. On dozens of worlds, revolts began not with fire, but with curiosity. Some read the message and trembled. Others began to hope. Back on the Empire's capital world, the council chamber was chaos. Dral Kuhn slammed his fist into the table. "They're dispersing." "Why?" Virex's voice cracked. "Because they've already won. And they didn't need us to know it. They needed us to feel it." He stared at the shifting star maps. Terran ships were no longer in pursuit. They weren't aiming at Empire targets. They were heading in every direction away from Earth, spreading, seeding. "Call the fleets back," Virex muttered. "Nothing good follows a people who build weapons out of planets." Too late. Earth, now, hollowed yet stable, began to collapse in stages, not in death but in closure. Its crust sealed over, its magnetic field folded into a compact core. It went quiet, like a blacksmith closing the lid on a finished tool chest. Inside one of the Terran city ships, a young girl pointed out the viewport. "Is it over?" she asked. Her mother smiled. "No, love, it's just begun." "Will we go back?" The mother shook her head. "One day, when they forget again." The ship rotated gently, aligning toward an uncharted system. Its engines didn't roar, they whispered, a resonance that made no sound, only awe. In deep space, where sensors failed and empires felt safe, something began to echo, a new map, a new network, and at its center, Earth, not as a location, as a concept. It had transcended geography. Now, Earth was a method. In the Council's final encrypted archive, Velresh wrote a single entry. "We did not find a planet. We found a process." And it has moved on. For centuries, the Empire had conquered systems by breaking them, but Earth learned from being broken, and then it built itself sharper, not to fight, to continue. They had invaded a world and discovered a factory. Now that factory was airborne, replicating, refining, unreachable, and still watching. Because no matter how far the cradle ships traveled, they always remembered home, and home always remembered them. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. It was the mold. And now it's been cast.